anyway, without any further ado, please welcome Camber Wilson. It's going to be fabulous.
So normally I do one-on-one, and so please be a little bit patient with me. Groups are new, and being videotaped is very new. But I'm really excited to be here with you guys and share my journey with you. I just want to thank Elizabeth and her family and the organization for letting me be here, and I'm really honored to be here because being somebody that has watched my parents go through the loss of a child, they didn't have the same support that this group has been a part of giving grieving parents, and so I love it, and I'm honored to be here. And I'm honored that you guys are all here. Thank you for coming and taking the time out of your weekend to be here with me.
Thank you.
Do I have any siblings that came today? Just parents? Okay. Okay, great. I want to honor you guys for being here too, because I know this might be a little bit new for you guys, even though your parents might come here or whatever, but that's very vulnerable. And so I wanted to honor you guys as well as honor all the parents for your guys' losses. All of our grief is very unique to our own experience, but I wanted you all to know that I see and I honor things that you guys have been through with losing the loved ones in your life. So my name is Camber Wilson. I have 3 kids. I'm married. I'm an intuitive life coach, and my whole life had experiences with spirit ever since I could remember. I'm taking my shoes off. I hope that doesn't bother anybody. Get good and comfortable. I fought against my abilities for a very, very long time, and I'll explain that as we get into my journey. But once finding myself a couple years ago, I finally let it be, and I embraced it, and I stopped treating it like something that was more of a burden of feeling people's suffering around me. And so as of right now, I'm an intuitive life coach. That's what I do. I help people through all walks of life get unstuck, get past grief, get past addictions, their own feelings of not knowing themselves, finding purpose. And like Suzanne or Elizabeth introduced me, I'm also developing spiritual medium. My spirit team, as I found myself, was very direct with who they wanted me to work with and helped me find Suzanne Wilson. And I've been doing intuition development with her for a little over a year now. And so that's a big part of who I am. And eventually I want to merge the two. But that's just a little bit about me. I don't know exactly where this is going to go today. I would think, as I was preparing, oh, this would be a little tidbit to be good to include about me or my journey. And my master guide, her name's also Elizabeth, and she's been very direct about, no, we're gonna talk to your mom, and we're gonna figure some stuff out. And so, along with this journey, I've also figured out and found out bits of the story that they had never told me, that they shared with me, very sacred things that they wanted to share with you guys as a group. So she's been with me. So yeah, they're really the ones running the show right now. If I could just ask for your guys' patience, everything right now I have in notes, pretty much everything that I want to go over, but when they start to chime in, it's like trying to eavesdrop on 2 conversations. You're trying to get something out, and then you're like, okay, what? So if I pause here and there, that's why. Everybody's just having a field day behind me right now. But I've also had, I've felt outrageous amounts of love. I opened up this morning and then just invited, I don't know if you guys have invited your loved ones into the room. I'd like to have a grounding and protection over the room before I start in my journey, and also just like a breathing exercise to get us all good and cleared and centered. I need my energy nice and centered. So if whoever wants to participate, I welcome you to participate in that with me. But I have already felt outrageous amounts of love coming through Spirit for this group of people that had designated the time to come. And I actually turned around in my bathroom as I was getting ready. And I normally don't see with my physical eye, so it kind of took me off guard, but I saw a young man that was around 14 walk through my bedroom. So we'll just see how this goes. Let's see. Is there anything else I want to touch on? So yeah, everybody in Spirit, if they want to chime in, I'm just asking for them to come in towards the end, but I'm not planning on bringing any loved ones through at all. But in my experience in my life coaching, especially this morning after having whoever's son come in and visit me this morning, just to let me know he was there, I don't tell Spirit no. There are specific times I do tell them no. I was one time doing yoga, and you're completely clear-minded in Savasana. Normally I'm really closed, and this man came over, his daughter was in the group, and wanted me to go and communicate a message to her, and I was like, I'm really sorry, I come here on a regular basis, I can't do that. But with you guys, if I do get someone that's very persistent, I will stay open to that in the end, but I have no intention of doing that. So that's why I'm saying, like, we'll see how this goes. But if somebody, I have had Spirit get in my face and be like, I really want you to talk to me right now. So if that happens in this setting, knowing how you guys are with that and how you guys feel, I probably won't say no. But I've never done a group, and they're extremely hard from what I hear. And so my main purpose is just to come here and share with you guys my journey. I'm going to use my phrases. I know that with loss, everybody has something that resonates to the most of them. I've been trying to figure out if I wanted to say transition or passed on, and if I worry too much about the phrases, I'm not going to get out the message I want. So please take what resonates, what heals you, what feels some kind of peace to you, and anything that doesn't stick, just know that I'm here to share with you guys for the healing of the planet in love and light, but I'm not here to offend. I'm not here to say things differently than would be specific or empathetic to your feelings. It's just going to come out the way it comes out. I think that's pretty much it. And at the end, if anybody, I'm not in a big hurry, if somebody has questions, I doubt I will take the whole 2 hours. If you guys have questions as a group for me, as a sibling, and I've had experiences in my own life with loss. If you guys have questions for me, I welcome that. I'm an extremely open person. My life is an open book. I've specifically lived my life that way. So I'm not opposed to anybody asking questions, what might have helped me with my grief or dealing with my parents' grief, with my empath abilities or anything like that. I'm not opposed to that. Or if you want to talk to me a little bit one-on-one afterwards, I'm in no hurry. So, and that was just the last thing that I wanted to say before we center and ground really fast. I refer to it as my gift, and it's not to say that it's not a gift that everybody can have. I'm sure we could all relate to experiences that all of a sudden there was just a warmth that told you not to turn, or you felt guided in talking to somebody or introducing yourself or being more open than you would normally be with somebody. So I call it my gift, not to say that we can't experience this, because we all can. Trust me, if I can strengthen this ability, all of you can if you wanted to. But I call it my gift because of my gratitude now towards my higher power and towards the influence and the peace that it's brought in my life. So that's also not to offend anybody. That's just what I've always called it. And so yeah, with that, I would love to get started with you guys. If you want to participate in, I call it a centering exercising, so it's kind of like a meditation. We're going to close our eyes, take a couple deep breaths, pull our energy in. If you want to participate, please put your feet on the ground and close your eyes. Okay, I'm just going to invite everybody to take a couple deep breaths, to really become present in your body, in your mind, in your spirit. If you haven't already, I'd like to give you guys the time to invite those loved ones that you might have lost to be in this space with you, to give you feelings of confirmation and love that they're present. Take a deep breath in, imagining breathing in white, healing, golden light. And as you exhale, letting go of all external sources, stress, and any burdens from the outside world. Take another deep breath, becoming extremely present in your body. Again, surrounding yourself with beautiful, translucent white light. Exhaling all stresses, burdens, worries, anxiety. And on your next inhale, I'm going to have you guys start to pull your energy into your center, imagining that your center is a magnet pulling any external scattered energy back into your core. Again, pulling your energy inward, becoming present in your body, releasing all tension. Allowing your body to relax and just be in this moment. Divine Source, Holy Creator, thank you for blessing us with this day, with our lives, and with all of our many blessings. Thank you for giving us another opportunity to serve you in these bodies. I ask that you surround me and every person in this room in a beautiful, translucent, golden bubble of protection that is bathed in the divine, white, loving light of your Holy Spirit, sealing in all of our positive energy and good health, sealing out all negative energy, ill health, and entities from lower realms. And I send white light to the lower realms so that only peace, love, and protection may enter this space. With joy, love, and gratitude, I invite our spiritual teams, guides, angels, and those loved ones from the light to please be with us in this space, to please comfort those in need of comfort, to please give confirmation to those that are searching for it, and to please be with us as we go forward in our lives. And so it is. When you guys are ready, you can go ahead and open your eyes. Thank you guys for participating. I just want to formally introduce and invite my spiritual team in. They're already here, but the brother that I lost, his name is Casey, and he normally stands on this side behind me. So I wanted to introduce him, invite him in. I also have Elizabeth, my master guide, which is kind of like my cheerleader and like an older sister. She loves to tease me, so she's here. So as I start, I just want to go over a little background about my family. Or you know what, where I'd like to start is really where it all started. I am the youngest. I was originally supposed to be the youngest of 4, and Casey would be my oldest brother. He was lost when I was around 3, so I have a few earthly memories of him, but mostly a lot of the earthly memories that I have are solidified by home videos that we had and pictures and things. But I do remember losing him. I do remember playing with him. Those are some of my most treasured early memories that I have of him, and he has always been with me. He is my twin flame in so many ways. My parents, I was not present when he was lost. Me and my older sister were actually at my grandmother's, and my parents went on a family trip to Lake Powell for a couple days. And the sequence of events that happened, they don't really know what caused him to drown. But they went up for a couple days. It was about the 3rd day that they were on the lake, and my parents had just purchased some snorkeling gear, and they're very, very, very protective of me and my siblings. So they had my grandmother and my aunt watch over my oldest sister, Casey, my oldest brother, and another cousin, and they were snorkeling on the opposite side of the boat. Both of my parents were very, very physically fit. My mom was a swimmer, a championship swimmer all through high school, and my dad was also very physically fit. He worked for my family owned a rock and gravel company, and so they were snorkeling in the front of the boat, maybe 12 feet away, and they heard my grandma and my aunt shouting that Casey was going under, and within a matter of seconds, they said that they were there, and that he was just gone. After that, they looked for him for a while, and I've asked my mom, what they thought could have happened, and there was really nothing that could have happened. The houseboat wasn't on, so there was no fumes. He was the only one that they decided, he was 9 years old at the time, and he was the only one that they decided not to put a life jacket on because he was such a strong swimmer. And so he just went under. My grandmother said that, 1 second he was fine, and the next second she saw him starting to sink. And there was really no transition of, floating or passing out or anything like that. They just happened. They radioed in Mayday right away, and the lake patrol came out and searched for him for about an hour, and they couldn't find him. Lake Powell, I don't know if you guys are familiar with it, but it's very, very deep. And so about 80% of people at the time that were lost at Lake Powell, and this was back in the 80s, about 80% they couldn't recover. So they looked for a little bit. My parents set a buoy, and they were like, I'm sorry, we can't find him. They went back to the hotel. My parents own a company, so they're decently wealthy, and a chopper flew my mom back with my oldest sister to my grandmother's house, and she dropped her off there and then went back to continue the search. Back then, they didn't search more than that. I remember my mom telling me that she called the police, and they said if she were to say that he drowned, that they would not come looking for him, that they would just, I'm sorry, we can't do anything. If she were to say, and they were really close with, Mesa was very small back then. If she were to say, we think that there might be a possibility that we could find him, they said there would be no amount of resources we wouldn't expend to go after to find him. So they recruited the sheriff's department's help. My parents also hired their own team of divers around the clock to go and dive and look for him. The next day they went back out and somebody had stole the buoy, and so they had to go and re-find the spot, which made the search a lot harder. But it took about 5 days to find him. My mom specifically had asked not to put him in a body bag because he was scared of the dark, so she made him a quilt, and they had it on the houseboat. And she said that the day had felt differently. That they had asked specifically, please let us see him before you take him. She's like, I just want to hold him one last time. And she said that she woke up that day and it just felt different. The energy all around them just felt different. And it was about 11 o'clock in the morning, and my dad's really good friend's boat sped over, grabbed the quilt, and sped over to another boat, and they took off. And my mom, what's going on? And they said they had finally found him after 5 days. They didn't get to see him before he was prepared because, he was underwater for 5 days, and those that are closest to us just thought that it was better that they saw him afterwards. And so they went through the whole preparation, the funeral, and all that. The reason I'm kind of giving you guys more of a detailed story about finding him is because if it wasn't for my parents having a little bit of money, it would have been a lost cause. And there was a lot of people that my parents had talked to that they had never gotten that closure, and my dad and my mom really, really, really needed that closure. After that, my parents also started a nonprofit organization to deal with their grief. My dad helped recover hundreds and hundreds of, into probably the thousands of bodies. And then the organization has dissipated now because they went into actually training the divers how to grid search, which then helped a lot more than actually going out and trying to recover the bodies themselves. But they started that organization. It was active for the first 10 years of my life, and it was called the Casey Johnson Foundation. They did a lot of work in the lakes around here, in the Salt River, and as I've gotten older and I've met with Suzanne, my brother was very instrumental in helping him save those people from the water. Specifically, those are the words that he said, saving people from the water. And that was something that they worked on together after his passing. One thing that I did want to share with you guys that I did not know, as I was talking to my mom and sharing with her that I was going to do this, I asked her if there was any signs or anything that I could share that I didn't know about. And she said that about 7 months after losing Casey, she had always said, I just needed to hold him. By the time I got to see him again, he was in the casket and prepared, and she's like, I just needed to hold my little boy one last time. And she said it was about six to 7 months later, after everything had happened, and she said it was the most real dream that she's ever had. And she was on some kind of a front porch in a rocking chair, and Casey came to her in his quilt and sat with her, and she said, I got to rock him for hours. And finally he said, after sitting with her for a very long time, he said, Mommy, this was all supposed to happen and I have to go now. And she just said that was what she needed. It gave her the closure she needed after losing him. She woke up that night crying, because I'm sure, those that have had those experiences, it's extremely moving. She woke up crying, and my dad, asked her what was wrong, and she said, Casey just came to me and explained what had happened. And 2 nights previous, my dad had always, as a man, I'm sure you guys can understand, your role is to protect, and he had always had this lingering guilt of, I wasn't there, I didn't save him. I'm not a good dad. And 2 nights prior to her dream, he had his dream of Casey coming to him and same age, and said, Daddy, you're a good daddy. You don't need to worry. It wasn't your fault. So they both experienced dream visits that helped give them more closure. As a sibling, losing Casey, you see things from a very different perspective. Being as young as I was, I felt the loss, but I didn't understand it. I remember seeing my parents grieve, and as a toddler, you're thinking, as a young little girl, you're thinking like, oh, it's something I did, and wanting to go over and soothe them. But you just see the world so much differently. And I know that my experience will be a little bit more unique than those that are a little bit older. But my experience, normally, the people that I've talked to that lose children with younger children, one of them will normally develop an ability, and that was me. My other sisters, my one that's just older than me, she's very empathic. She's very close to her ability. She doesn't want anything to do with it. But as a young girl, I remember seeing my parents grieve and knowing that my brother was there. They're like spontaneous thoughts that happen that they're not yours. All of a sudden you'll just be sitting there and it'll snap you out of whatever you're doing, and it's like, where did that come from? And I've had that my whole life. There was times as a little girl, he was there so strongly. I would pray for hours to let God let me see him. And I didn't have that until later on in life. But I have always called him my guardian angel because he was always, always, always with me. I never wanted this ability as a kid. Some of the effects that it had on my family, my genealogy and my family, they struggle with alcoholism and drinking, and my dad had struggled on and off, but this had shoved him pretty hard into it, as I'm sure you guys can imagine. He dealt with grief differently. Instead of moving through it, he, for lack of a better term, tried to lessen it with drinking. And that's all I remember of him also. I don't have any memories of him before becoming an alcoholic. And that was really hard for me and my siblings. I'm sure you guys can relate to anybody that you've seen lost to an addiction. There's a light of being about them that's also killed in the process. And so I lost that relationship with my dad very early on. He still is not able to talk about Casey openly. He still grieves it very hard. And, we just function as normal as we can. But my dad's truly never really recovered from it. My mom, on the other hand, she was very, very present in our lives, very loving, very nurturing, would talk about my brother all the time. She is the one that I would come to. If you have young children and you've lost one, she is the one that I felt safe coming to and kind of expressing a little bit what I was going through with the signs and things from the other side. But there was still a little bit of apprehension there. Yeah. But my mom was very, very present in our lives. But like I said, this was not something I ever wanted. It served me being an empath. My dad would get upset when he was drinking. And so I would know by the time he hit the back porch, if I spent a lot of time in my room, and I would know, today's not a good day. And so I would go, and I spent a lot of time with Spirit. But it was really, really hard feeling everybody around me. The other really scary thing that I had was we grew up very religious, and they call it psychic or soothsayer or something like that. I can't remember. And I just remember having this ability to sense spirit and see colors and hear things, and they had said that it was evil, and so I thought I was evil, and so that's where I kind of started fighting it. And as a young kid, it's really scary going to bed at night and being overly sensitive to these things, and not all energies are greatly positive, and so that was a little bit hard for me to deal with. But my brother has always been there to comfort me. One of the ways that I feel like as families, we try to deal with grief. The parents feel like they have to be strong for the kids, and the kids feel like they have to be strong for the parents. And that was one of the things I admonish about my mom, that she was very open. She didn't try to hide her grief. We could come and talk to her about our experiences of feeling sad about Casey leaving, or like this group has made that safe place where you can come and you can say, I had this, and people validate you instead of going, are you sure you didn't make that up? My mom was that for me in a lot of ways. But there was a lot of hardship in my family. My older two siblings, it's been a rough ride. My older two siblings are a little bit more closed as people. My oldest sister is now addicted to OxyContin, and she was actually the one that was with him when he went under, and she used to have nightmares and stuff about that. So there was a lot of turmoil going on growing up and not really understanding it. And then as I got into high school and stuff, my mom, she's still here in physical, but I say that I lost her to an alcohol addiction. So she's still here, but her light is also not quite as bright. It's not quite her anymore. So after this experience of growing up, I was looking really hard to 18. I was tired of the turmoil, of the things that I didn't understand, and spent a lot of time on my own, but was really, really looking hard to 18. My brother actually saved me a lot. There was one time, me and my husband were driving. We were on Hunt Highway heading out to a house that we were looking at buying because we were engaged, and we were going 80 miles an hour, no seatbelts, and somebody else pulled in front of us and stopped in the middle of the highway. And he's been there protecting me all along the way, and helping my whole family. My personal hardest experience with grief was I married my soulmate, my husband, and for about 10 years he lost his life to an addiction that I didn't know about. This is starting to get very forlorn. I'm so sorry. As I was preparing this didn't feel so heavy. I had never seen anybody come back. My parents are still very present in my life. They just aren't as emotionally available. But as I got married at a very young age. I met my husband. I met my husband my freshman year, which my brother also takes credit for that. my husband had this whole like freeze moment, you know, as you walk past and fall in love at first sight. And, you know, I don't know how much everybody believes in that or not, but later in one of my readings, my brother was very enthusiastic that was his doing. But I was really looking hard to being out on my own, and pretty soon addiction had come into our relationship, and for about 10 years I didn't know what was going on. There was a lot of hardships and a lot of the same patterns. So that was there, and then we went into intensive counseling. So the reason I tell you all this is because it really developed who I was. At the time, I hated life. I lost my husband, was the last straw. He was there, he was walking, he was talking, he was living, but the light was gone, the connection was gone, it was just all gone. And I was done. There had been so much grief and so much heaviness in my family, and then it had followed me into my adult life, and I had just had it. During this whole time, I look back, and I was really running from suffering. I was doing the best that I could to hold myself together, but I was really running. I was running from suffering. I was praying to God to take it from me, that this was not a part of the life that I was supposed to live. And me and him entered intensive therapy about it was like 3 years ago now. He had a disclosure and came to me and wanted to get help, so we went into intensive care therapy, and it actually was just breaking me even more. My therapist was very firm about pushing, like, dig up your past, let's put this to rest. And it, you know, along with dealing with this truth that I had just found out about him, it was killing me to look back and to relive all of that. I actually got to the place where I was suicidal. I have 3 young kids. They were a couple years younger at the time, and that was the only thing that kept me here. Ever since I was a little girl, like death, I always understood that death was where you were at peace. I was surrounded by my parents grieving, and you know, my siblings lashing out because they were grieving in their own way and feeling the hardships and stuff. But in all the moments that I was alone and quiet, I always understood everybody from spirit coming through, that was peace, that was home. You know, we're here and we're struggling. And I always, as a little girl, it was kind of morbid being an 8-year-old and being like, yeah, when I get to die, that'll be the greatest day ever. But that's always how I understood it, that this was the struggle. And when they go, it's just every time I've ever felt spirit, I have to remember to tell the people that are in the physical, I'm so sorry for your loss, because the energy that emanates from spirit is so whole and happy and at peace. And in these moments of losing this connection with my husband and seeing his light die, I didn't want to go on. I was done. Grief wasn't something that was just a word. It was literally every breath that I took in, and life felt completely unbearable. And it's really funny. If you would have asked me 3 years ago, after this awful, crushing loss of mine, if I would have ever been grateful for the experiences that I had, I would have told you that you were freaking crazy out of your mind. But it wasn't until I completely had broken as a person that I was able to rebuild my life and to shed off everything that I had carried with me. It was then that I stopped fighting against what had happened, against losing my brother, against having an alcoholic dad, against losing my mom to the same addiction, and my husband, you know, losing his light to his. It wasn't until that point that I felt cornered, and I was like, okay, like, suicide's not an option. I have 3 young kids. There's no way in hell that I'm going to put them through that pain, because I was just way too familiar with what I felt like. And so I stopped running from it, and I stopped praying to God to take it from me, and I finally faced it. And I said, okay, what the hell do you want me to learn? Like, where's the reason in all this? And it changed me as a person. I remember specifically after telling my therapist and my husband in a session that I had been getting this voice, this constant voice for months saying, like, this isn't what's going to help you. Like, you need to quit, and I will catch you and guide you. I remember telling them that, and them saying, no, you know, the only way to get better is through this, is you know, hashing this all out. And I'm like, and I left, and I was like, no, I'm really sorry. I remember sitting in my car and crying and pleading, you know, where is the reason behind all the suffering? Like, what good has this brought? And, you know, my radio's playing, and I don't know if you guys have ever heard this song. It's called Preacher. And I loved it, and I rocked out to it so many times. And I'm sitting there in my car just completely forlorn. And this phrase had hit me, and it said, God only helps those that learn to help themselves. And I don't know why it had such the impact that it had on me, but it finally just clicked on a light. And I finally realized that I had to start living my life. I had to stop letting so many other things contribute to where I was. And it changed my whole life. It took me a really long time to remember what spirit sounded like, but now that I look back, that was who was telling me for months. You know, you need to stop and you need to listen, and this isn't where you're going to find healing. After that, my life has completely changed. I've never seen anybody come back from addiction, not in my personal life. And my husband is whole again, or we've never been happier together. And this whole new world finally opened up in front of me when I finally started trying to find reason behind the suffering, and not just suffering, but actually figuring out, like, okay, what am I supposed to be learning? Why did I orchestrate this? For me, in my reality, I have gotten personal confirmation that for me, I had plotted all of this. I specifically chose the parents that I chose. My brother, I know that he was assigned to me to stay with me through all that hardship. He's the only one that got me through my childhood. After that, I started finally finding some kind of peace and healing. Every day got a little bit better. That was in October. And in November, I started getting the prompting to go see a medium. And I thought that I was going crazy, completely crazy. I remember getting it for about 2 months, consistently, at least 3 times a week, if not a daily, several times a day basis, like, you need to go see a medium. And finally in December, end of December, I stopped and I go, okay, mystery voice, out loud, alone in my house. Okay, mystery voice, if you put in my lap this person that's not going to steal my money and isn't going to be a complete charlatan, I will go. And 2 weeks later, an acquaintance that I know came to me and talked to me about Suzanne Wilson. She had told 3 other people in her immediate family. We had maybe chit-chatted for 5 minutes twice. And she's crying, and I don't know why I'm telling you this. And it was all orchestrated by something so much bigger than me. I made my appointment that day with Suzanne, all kinds of butterflies and not knowing where the heck this was going to go. And I went to her and had the most amazing experience, the most amazing validation, everything. As a kid, I always worried kind of that I called Casey my guardian angel, and I always felt him there. But part of you always wonders how much you're making it up, you know? That logical left side of your brain always sits there and is this right? Is this true? Are you crazy? So that just capped off all the healing that I needed. It was the most amazing experience ever. And then I asked her, I was like, do I have this ability that you have? Like, I've had these experiences my whole life, and she's like, oh yeah, she's like, you've got it. And she's like, not to scare you, but she's like, there's definitely mediumship in there. She's like, if you're open to it, she's like, you know, spirit will take you there. And I, from then on, I just, okay, you know, I've let doors open, I've met amazing people, but I've actually started living life now. Not to say that life's not hard, that there's not things that you lose. I could never imagine losing a child. I have 3, and the losses that you guys have suffered, I truly, truly honor them. But in my life on a daily basis, you just learn to start looking at the sun a little bit more, you know? You don't ever really get over it. My parents haven't, I haven't. But you start to listen a little bit more. Let's see, what else can I share with you? Oh, this is a fun little fact. My daughter, after going to seeing Suzanne, my oldest is autistic. I love him to death. And then I have a girl and then a boy. And when I went to Suzanne, she was talking about all these people that come in my house. And if you ever have been in my house, it feels different, but you know, it also feels like there's a lot of traffic. Sometimes my husband's like, do you feel all that? And I'm like, uh-huh. Stuff's moving around, sorry about that. So Suzanne, while I was talking to her, she said, you know, I don't know if you know this, but your daughter, or not your daughter, she said one of your children sees the people coming and going, this great amount of traffic. And I thought it might have been my son because he's autistic, and he's always just been a little bit, just so much more sensitive and genuine. So I asked him, you know, hey, is there anything you see that you don't tell me? And he's like, no. He's like, you mean like outside? Okay, no, it's not me. I went to my other son. My daughter was the last one I assumed that it was, and I asked him, and same kind of response. And I went to my little girl, and I said, is there anything that you see that you don't talk to me about? And immediately she pauses. Her eyes get really big. She already has really doe-like eyes, get even bigger. And I'm like, Katie, talk to me and tell me what's going on. And you know, we've developed this whole other side of she's much more gifted than I am. She can actually see with her eyes, and my brother has come to her and visited her on a regular basis. She says every birthday that he comes in and he sings to her. Wow. And there's been so many validations. I can tell you guys that in my experience with all this, with death and grief, in my life, it all served a greater good. I would not be the person that I am today. I would not be able to serve the people I do and be as empathic, understanding, loving, supportive. I can truly sit there with people and go, you know, it looks a little different, but I know how it feels to just feel like you can't go on for one moment, that it's just all for loss. And it's because of the meaning that it's brought to my life that I know that this is just a temporary school that we're at. It's like sending your kids to boarding school. For me in my life, God hasn't been there with the magnifying glass, you know, over me like I thought he was. it was all for this end result that eventually we all get to, and it makes sense in the end. I'm truly grateful for everything, for all the hard times, for my dad being my greatest teacher, whether it be directly or indirectly, for the great parts about him and for the parts that I've looked at and gone, oh, that's really been great, not to learn that I don't want to repeat that. For my mom and for how sensitive and sincere she was, and open anytime we wanted to talk. What I can say in my experience with grief is don't get stuck in it. It's too easy to let it follow you. I was stuck. My family's been stuck in anger for a really long time because it's easy. It doesn't hurt as bad. But it's not till you get through it. There is a light once you get through it, and the meaning that it brings to your life. I mean, it would be nice not to have to experience it, but when you finally find it, why it all happened, and knowing that they're not gone, it changes you for so much better than anything else could. As a life coach, I had prepared all these lessons that I'm like, this can help, but I'm not feeling them as much as I was before. But there is one thing that I want to share. If you guys are looking for confirmation from your kids, your grief will be a wall. Until my parents kind of got past that first initial sting of it, it was for them. I think my brother was trying to get through to them for a really long time before he finally did. For me, it wasn't until I finally stopped fighting that I could actually hear better. I have this exercise that I do when I want to open up and I want to receive messages, that I get it all out. I call people, I talk to a tree, I mean, I don't care how it comes out. But you get all the emotion out, and you let yourself become empty. And then find a quiet place and ask. The experiences that I've had with Spirit, they do not impose on you. There has been times that they certainly have, but on the majority basis, if you need that answer, for any siblings that are going to watch this later, if you're looking for that confirmation that they're there, release it all, get it out, talk to somebody, cry it out, whatever you have to do, and then get really quiet. Get somewhere really, 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 really quiet, and ask, because they're not going to come just to come. If there's a life lesson, I've learned that they won't come. There's been plenty of life lessons where I was like, I need answers, and they didn't come because I had to get through it. But get quiet and ask, and I promise you that you will get something. It was in my quiet moments growing up is when I always got my messages and I always got my answers. And just know, we can't see them, but they're not far. I can tell you right now, I'm fidgeting because of the amount of energy that is just in this room. I'm feeling it a lot more from Spirit than you guys, which I thought was going to be the opposite, but you guys have warriors on the other side. Like, your children are truly beautiful, and they love you, and they're standing behind you so much more often than you know, supporting you. Yeah, I think that's all I got. Thank you guys for listening to my story. I hope it was healing in some way. I'm sorry that parts of it were very heavy. You know, that's kind of life. That's been my life. It's been a wild journey, and with great rewards.
Thank you.
Good job.
I met Camber.
Oh, I was going to say that.
Okay, at Suzanne Wilson's office, and Suzanne said, I have someone who's really gifted, and I'd like to just see if she can break through anything for you. So I went to Suzanne's office, and I've done this a lot of times, because when she has people who are going through mediumship, she asks me a lot. And Camber was amazing. I mean, she initially thought that Morgan was my father, actually, which makes sense. I realize now that I've gone through these mediumship classes, when you see someone who's really big standing in front